I got my daughter Elena, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch that little boy who dates my daughter. And you better make me proud like I made my father-in-law proud. That means something to me. I wanted to prove my father right. You know, I still got in my cell phone right now, and one of the reasons I got this is I only use it for phone calls and stuff like that, but it's for FaceTime for my babies, but I love the fact that you can save voicemails. I got my dad's voicemail still saved in here. My dad passed away 2 years ago, and it was this old school man. He left the same voicemail every single time. Hey PJ, this is your father. Give me a call. That is all. Right now, right? And I used to get so mad, I'd be like, can you change up the voicemail? Can you say something different for once? I wish he would call me again and say that same voicemail one more time. Man, it eats me up inside, man. You know what? Thank God this company allowed me to microwave my success. My dad was going to go to his deathbed thinking that, what have I raised? What have I done? My son's going to struggle. I brought somebody into this world, and now he's going to struggle? See, I think about my kids. When I had my kids, all of a sudden their little Social Security cards come in, huh? And they're a number. They're a number already. And they got to pay just to exist. Just to occupy this spot in the world, they have to pay now. And I brought them in. Selfishly, I brought my kids into this planet because I wanted a little mini-me that looks just like me that I can mold and turn into a stud without realizing that now he's marked and he's a number. And I don't want to bring him into a life of struggle. I don't want to bring him into a life of pain. I don't want to bring him into a life of misery. I don't want to bring him into a life where he lacks. So I got to go grind it out because I'm the one that brought that seed into this world. And I think about it, just water ain't even free anymore. Pretty soon, those polluted as the air is, we're going to need to pay for air. You get some now. And I brought my kids in this world to pay to exist just so they can struggle because of the sins of the father shall be cast onto the children. All the way, what does it say, to the second or the third generation. I'm not going to allow that to happen. Everything that I do, the second and the third generation of my family, it's casting that sin out to them. It's pretty crazy when you start to understand that everything that I'm doing right now is a ripple effect. It's a butterfly effect, as Mr. Levitan says. Now, we got to win for our families, and then once you win for your family, we got to be an example for other people's families and other people's kids. It's bigger than just making money. So you got to sell out to recruiting. Oh, I didn't say it. I said that already. Personal development. Whatever that number was. But going back to personal development, I want to say guard your associations, guys. One of the most powerful things other than associations is the power of disassociation. And if you're married, do you want your spouse hanging around with single people? Probably not, right? Why? Because they're going to start walking, talking, and acting like a single person. Do we guard who our kids associate with? Because birds of a feather flock together. You're known by the company that you keep. But what about ourselves? What about us? Who do we hang around with? How positive are they? Are they uplifting us? Are they thinking like us? Are they going on the right track with us? We need to guard who we hang around with. So the three things that you can work on with yourself are the books, the CDs, and your associations. That's what's changed my life. The books that I've read, you show me what you're reading and I'll show you your future. See, everything is about developing habits. I love what Holbrook said when he always, every single day, works out his mind. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't, you can plant poison ivy. The fruit always matches the seed. I can plant poison oak, and it's going to become poison oak. You're never going to plant squash and it becomes an oak tree. You're never going to plant an oak tree and it becomes a squash. Whatever you plant is what you're going to get. And if you plant nothing, the bugs, the weeds, and negativity is going to creep in. Something's about to grow in that garden, and you always have to tend to the soil, or else it starts slipping away and the weeds take over your garden. You got to keep planting those healthy seeds. There's so many things around us, so many distractions around us that are giving you negative seeds. You got to take control of the positive seeds that go into your head. This event was a couple of days, but what about when we get out of here? You got to keep on working on that. Next, you heard them say it. Everybody said these nuggets. You got to lead by example. But I want to take it a little bit of a step further. You got to qualify for the company trips. There's so many more things other than recruits and sales that you got to lead by example. Your team needs to see you speak on stage. Your team needs to be proud that they're on your team. Your team needs to say, you know, I'm proud that that's my leader. I was originally Eric Olson's exchange leg. And I was young, and I went under the gentleman who's no longer in the business. And I remember I had never given a talk a day in my life, a speech. It was always Eric. It was so easy being an Eric team because Eric just pounds, we're going to go conquer the world. He'd been talking about that since day one. And I'm just sitting there like one of those Magnavox commercials. And I didn't have to do anything. And then all of a sudden I go direct to somebody else who didn't do a talk, he didn't speak in public, he didn't do any of that stuff. And I see my team sitting in front of me. And I hear Eric in the other room pounding it, we're going to do something big. And I'm no longer direct to Eric anymore. And I see my team looking at me. And you know what I knew the thought on their head was? I wish I was in that other room. Oh, that lit me up. I don't want anybody to never feel proud that they're not playing for this coach. Man, I worked so hard. I had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to learn what to say in these meetings and how to create value for people. I never want my wife to be in a meeting and then see another man get up there and I'm not winning and she taps me and says, I wish you were more like him. Ooh, you mean to tell me I won't go prospect anybody? I'll knock on doors until my knuckles bleed before I let my wife say that about me. Before I let my kids look at somebody else. Do you think Michael Jordan's son, if he wants to learn how to become successful, do you think Michael Jordan would say, go read a book? Or do you think he said, I'll teach you exactly how to be successful. You don't need to read any book. You learn exactly from me. That's how I want to teach my team. That's how I want to teach my family. And I thought about it, and then guess what? The switch flipped. I became a leader that day. Kind of like when you have kids. Thank you. I appreciate all the good stuff you say about me, but I think I got that at convention this year. My team was like, dang, that's my leader. It went from, I wish I was in the other room, to, holy cow, I didn't even know whose team I was on. I had to work on myself to do that. It didn't come easy. That came through hard work. That came in my quiet moments. Success comes when nobody else is watching. What do you do when nobody else is watching? That's the integrity you got to keep within yourself. What are you pouring into yourself? I was reading books when everybody else was out partying. I'm reading books. I had no vocabulary. I didn't know how to retain information from reading, but I wouldn't let my lack of interest in reading be the reason that I demised in this business. So I started reading books while everybody else was partying. And you know what I said? I'm willing to do what nobody else is willing to do. So one day I'm going to have a vocabulary that can attract quality people. And I used to have to look at these words, and we didn't even have like a high-speed internet back then and stuff, right? So I'd have to look at these words, and I didn't know what that word meant. And I had to go to a dictionary and figure out what that word meant, because I didn't have those vocabularies on the streets. But I got better at it. And you can get better at it too. So no excuses around here, right? There's no excuses in our business. Anybody can get better. Lead by example. What else do you got? You got to go get your ring. Your team needs to feel proud of you. When you see Levitan on stage commanding that crowd, gray cap, all your SMDs, don't you feel proud that that's your leader? Yeah. Man, I feel proud. I'm like, that's the lineage we come from? But then I feel like, why? Don't deny your team from feeling that feeling about you. Let them feel proud that they're on a championship team. Let your kids feel proud. That's my parents. That's what we've done. They're champions. They're winners. Man, we can create this culture where our team, our kids and our family, they don't know anything else other than greatness. All the things that come out of their mouth are great things. And they could start here in this company. And one of the last things I wanted to touch on was being a crusader. What's your crusade? You don't have to buy into my crusade. What's your crusade? What do you like? You see what it is, business ownership. You know why my crusade is business ownership? You know why that? Because the only reason I'm here is because of this. I got a high school diploma from a beat-up high school, a product of the public school system. All my friends are dead in jail and on drugs. I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, we had a police, we had a daycare. My school invented the term baby mamas. I'm no lie, right? We had a daycare on our high school campus. I thought everybody's high school had a daycare on their campus. Lo and behold, we were the knuckleheads. We had a police substation on our college campus because of all the gang violence and drugs and stuff. And armed San Jose police would be walking around because of all the gang violence. We had riots on our school campus, and the same groups that would click up in prison were the same groups that clicked up in our institution called the public school system. That's why we ended up the way we ended up. But WFG broke me out of that. I started thinking, wow, this is so powerful what we can become. I didn't know we were knuckleheads. I got a high school diploma. I'm supposed to make minimum wage, guys. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be a multi-millionaire speaking on stage, influencing people. I'm supposed to be a statistic. But I'm the one that determines my future, not anybody else. You're the one that determines your future, not anybody else. No matter where you are, you can lead. And I want to finish up. And I look at business ownership and I look at my dad. And I think about my dad, the best man. Look, my dad, I never heard him argue with my mom my whole life. I never heard him say a curse word my whole life. Never heard him complain about anything. He went to work every single day. I'm 10% of the man my father is. I hope my dad sees me. I told myself, man, I'm going to become the king of hearts, man. You know, I got to keep this going. I got to keep the legacy going on. I hope my dad is watching me. I know he's watching me right now. My mom passed away in 2000. ALS. My dad passed away. What do they say? It's the biggest killers now are cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. My dad had heart disease, cancer, and failed kidneys, which was going to lead to diabetes and all that stuff. He had all three of them. That's not going to happen to us. I know why it happened, and I'm going to change that, but I started thinking, man, you know what? There's a reason why he passed away like that. I was my dad's caretaker when he passed away. My dad raised me. He said, we take care of our own in this family. We don't put our family in homes. A long time ago, he said that, and it stuck with me. And my dad had all of his intestines taken out, and he had a bag. And he couldn't do anything eventually. He couldn't even move anymore. And I had to be there, and I had to build a base shop. I had to build a super base. And every 2 hours, I had to go empty my dad's bag. And sometimes I would leave, and the bag would explode, and it would be a mess. And I'd close the door, and ain't nobody else helping. No nurses is helping. I'm going to take care of my dad. And I'm so proud that this company gave me a chance to be financially independent so I could do that. And I remember the day my dad died, and I looked in his eyes, and he looked in my eyes, and he knew he raised a man. And he didn't have to go to his deathbed wondering, what did I bring my son into? And I'm just so grateful this company gave me an opportunity to do so. There's going to be some chances like that. You got to become the go-to person in your family, guys. If not you, who else is going to do it? Everybody else is so worried about themselves, they can't give to anybody else. And then while I was changing my dad's diapers and emptying his bag and stuff like that, I got my babies at home and I'm changing their diapers, and I had to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning to wake up to take care of my dad. But it's worth it. That was one of the best gifts I've ever been given. With every adversity is the seed of a benefit equal to the adversity if you look for it. I look at it now, and that was the best thing that ever happened in my life. And I look at my dad, and why is my crusade business ownership? Because my dad, at his height, he worked at Stanford for 30 years. And at his highest income, he made 60 grand before he retired. I got paid in a cycle more than my dad would make in a whole entire year. And I'm 10% of the man my father is. Still a work in progress. And I think about it, after, let's just say he finished off with 60 grand in income, but let's just say total, he made about 50 grand in income over 30 years. Probably less than that. What's 50 grand times 30 years total income he's made? 1.5 million. I made $850 last year in overrides. I made $850 the year before in overrides. That's $1.7 million in overrides. My dad would have literally had to be born, reincarnated, work his whole life, born, reincarnated, work his whole life, born, to just make what I'm going to make in the next 6 years in pure overrides. Mr. Levitan, my dad would have had to do that in Mr. Levitan makes that in like a couple of months. What my dad in 3 lifetimes would have had to make. And they stole my dad from me. And then guess what it said in his pension when I looked at it, and he finally trusted me with his money because my mom was deceased. No money goes to a beneficiary when you pass away. They were going to keep his $400,000 in his pension. They sucked all his life out of him, all his gifts out of him, because he was not born to work for somebody else. He never even got to really manifest, in my opinion, the true gift that I knew my dad had. And they took him away from me. So when I got out of school, he wasn't there. The gang members were there. Right? And the drug dealers were there. Not my father, but I'm glad he taught me what he taught me. And they sucked his whole life out of him. How many people is happening that to you? How many families are happening like that in our communities right now? And out of your family and your cousins and your second cousins and your in-laws. And you could stop that. And then all of a sudden, they were going to take his retirement on top of that. That's what's happening. And people think that pensions are the greatest retirement plan since sliced bread. They are not. Because you're giving ownership up to somebody else, and when you die, they keep the remaining balance because you don't own it anymore, because you don't know how to manage your money, so you give it to somebody else and say, just give me a stream of income and you keep the rest. And people go their whole life making corporations wealthy. And then they pass away, and they have their pockets inside out, and the only thing they got to show for is a medicine cabinet full of pharmaceuticals, and they've made pharmaceutical companies wealthy now too. And they took them all the way to their deathbed, making corporations wealthy, and they got their pockets turned inside out. That's the damn crusade I'm on. The corporations, not all corporations are bad, but business ownership has transformed my whole entire future for generations to come, and it can happen for you too. And the last thing I want to say is, how long do you got? How much time do we have? My mom passed away before her time. A lot of my friends passed away before their time. My dad, in my opinion, passed away before my time. You know how fast this company went? I've been in the business 13 years. It's a flicker. I'm 38 years old right now. You know how many more flickers I got? Gone. No more Paul Hart. I'm never going to see my son anymore and his curly little eyelashes. When he blinks, I wish my daughter was the one that had him. I know she wished she had him, but my son, his eyelashes tickled his eyebrows. I'm never going to get to see him anymore, man. All the stuff that makes me mad, I'm never going to hear that anymore. I'm never going to see my daughter turn around, scratch her brother in the face, kick him, and then turn around and say, "Hi, Daddy, do you love me?" I'm never going to get to see that anymore. 5 more flickers, and they're going to be patting me on the face with a shovel. How much longer do we got? The time is now, guys. When we get back home, let's show everybody a different version of ourselves, and let's go change ourselves so we can go change the world. Thanks a lot for having me.